Hey folks, Dave here, and welcome back to the Backyard Battlefield, which is of course my real-world firearm series. In this very first episode of 2021, we're going to be looking at personal defense and home defense firearms because there were a lot of new gun owners in 2020, which was, to put it mildly, a year of uncertainty for a lot of people. And a lot of them were coming at their first purchase from a personal defense, home defense, family defense perspective. Now for me, I spent quite a few years trying to figure out what is my ideal home defense firearm and what does that setup look like? And I've learned the hard way what works for me and what doesn't. And I thought that you guys might be interested in seeing what I've come up with that works for me, because it might work for some of you guys as well. So let's take a look at the firearm that I reach for when I hear a clatter on the rooftop, but Christmas was 2 weeks ago.
Should have known it was you, Evil Frosty.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how to transition away from that nonsense, but as the title suggests, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my own personal choice for a home defense firearm, my primary weapon system based AR-15, why that works best for me, and we're going to do some shooting with it out at the ranch and talk about why I chose the parts that I did and why I chose this platform in particular. So let's start off with that. The main thing is, guys, if I'm having to defend my home and my property and my family from a violent home invader or someone who's armed and trespassing, any kind of scenario out there, why would I not want to prepare to win that fight? I don't want a fair fight, guys. I'm in it to win it if I'm in that terrible scenario. I hope that I never am, but I want to win that gunfight. I want to end the threat, and an AR-15 is a great way to do that for a lot of different reasons that we're going to get into here shortly. As I mentioned already, this is a primary weapon system long stroke piston upper. This is one of the best values in the AR-15 world right now, and this platform is completely modular, so there's a lot you can do with it. But I chose the PWS upper because you can adjust the gas with just one click of the adjustment knob, which I have tucked under the front sight here. You can adjust that gas so fast to run it suppressed 100% of the time. You'll get less gas blowback in your face, and the gun's just gonna sound a bit better. Okay, so our frangible rounds here aren't wanting to cycle. What's cool about the primary weapon system upper is we can actually adjust the gas key right here and let more gas through and help the bolt cycle with those oddball rounds. So it's on, yeah, 2 dots for the suppressed settings. We're gonna go ahead and just open that all the way back up. All right, we're on 1. Let's see if that cycles. There we go. PWS really has, I think, perfected the long stroke piston AR system. The lower is a Arrow Precision with basically nothing too special about it. Arrow makes great basic stuff. This lower is also a registered short barrel rifle. A real stock, just for general day-to-day use, is always going to be a little bit better than a pistol brace. So for this gun, went ahead and paid that $200 infringement tax to Uncle Sam and put a real stock on it. It's a Magpul SL. Really like this stock. It's pretty lightweight. It's easily adjustable. I'm about 5'11", so I generally shoot it all the way extended. Just feels good. The suppressor on top is going to be a Vox S. It is a 30 cal suppressor, as you guys can probably see if the camera's gonna focus. You get a little bit less back pressure to help that gas system out, and you can use it on other stuff if you want to. Right now, I've got it mounted with a Silencer Co. ASR quick attach system, but generally I will actually have this suppressor mounted with a direct thread 1/2 by 28, just directly to the barrel to save on weight, because that muzzle brake does add some weight. Optic is going to be the old mailbox. This is a Gen 1 Vortex Razor, and it is incredible. This was my first hollow sight. I'm sure EOTechs and all are great as well, but just the way that hollow sights work, it's my favorite optic to shoot fast with. You've got a super large field of view, a super clear reticule, and you can transition so fast with this thing. Just to give you guys an example of how good this hollow sight is at picking up targets quickly, this was our close range to long range transition. Mostly X there, one in the outer ring there. This was our headshot for that second string. You can just pick up with that outer circle so fast. It's really, really nice. Love this Vortex. Yep, a little low.
See, Dave, you did it wrong. You're supposed to like push it back, shoot it with your pistol, reholster, and then go long range with the rifle.
Do a quick barrel roll. And,
Yeah.
You know what's cooler than doing the push away is just shooting them in the chest.
I mean, yeah.
Let's talk about the sling, because this is one area that I kind of tripped up when we were filming the range session. I store this in a quick access safe. You know, we have a toddler now, so all the guns are locked up securely and safely. It's close to the bed where I can get to it quickly, but the quick access safe is kind of small. So I've got my QD attachments here on this Faro Concepts Slingster sling. I love these slingsters, but with these QD attachments, I can just pop it on and off quite easily. And with that small safe, I figured, okay, I'll leave the sling off and just use it in a home defense scenario if I actually need it, if I'm not just defending the bedroom. Well, twice now, including going out to film the range footage, I have quick attached my sling backwards with this adjustment tab here, which is really nice. With the adjustment tab up here on my shoulder and the padded part of the sling around my waist like a moron. I didn't actually notice this during the range session because we were on a limited schedule, just go, 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 get it filmed before darkness falls, and no one else noticed either, but I do feel a little bit goofy. At the end of the day, it's probably more important to get quick access to the gun, and if the sling goes on backwards and I have to, go outside with it or something, if it's backwards, oh well, I'll notice it if I have to adjust it. I keep it adjusted for me, so it'll be usable even backwards. So why do I choose a AR-15 over a shotgun, for example, or perhaps a handgun? CZP09 right there. I spent quite a few years searching for my ideal home defense weapon, and I've landed on the AR-15 platform and how I've customized this build for a number of different reasons. Let's just break those down. Pistols are great for concealability. I carry one every single day when I'm out and about because you can carry it concealed, and not this one, this one's huge. But they've got lights you can attach, you've got hollow sights you can get now for them. they're pretty handy. But I was never great at shooting pistols. I've gotten a lot better over the years, but the ergonomics of how you shoot a pistol, your grip has to be good, your trigger pull has to be good. You've got to be really thinking about what you're doing, in my case at least. I had to really practice to get decent with pistols, and in the middle of the night, in a home defense scenario, do I want to be trying to remember, is my grip good? You know, is my trigger pull consistent? Yeah, you can suppress them too, which is actually a big advantage to pistol calibers, is they suppress really, really well. Suppressed 45 here. But then you're getting to a point where, look at the length on that thing, right? For a decent suppressor, which is still barely hearing safe. At this point, if you've got lights attached, a hollow sight, a gigantic suppressor, now you've got a much larger gun, which is not very maneuverable anymore. And yeah, it suppresses well, but at this point you're starting to lean towards, well, why don't I just go back to a long gun with all these attachments? Stuff tends to attach better and be still pretty maneuverable with a long gun. Additionally, while pistols can suppress well, the reason that they can do so if you're using subsonic ammunition is because they are lower power cartridges compared to a intermediate rifle cartridge like 223 or 5.56 from an AR. You're going to be sacrificing a lot of stopping power, if you will, to get that extra suppression out of a pistol, and I don't think that's a good trade-off. So pistols, concealable, handy, but once you start attaching all the stuff that you need for home defense, just might as well use a long gun. So then, why not a shotgun? Like this classic Remington 870 right here. Shotguns are fantastic, but they are incredibly loud. We have a toddler now, like I've mentioned, and I want to protect my hearing as well as his hearing, my wife's hearing. It's really hard to suppress a shotgun. You can do it, a few companies make suppressors for them, but they are particular, I guess. You've got to get it set up just right. And at that point, you've got a super long platform. Shotguns are also limited by their capacity. Generally that tops out at around 7 rounds, even with these longer magazine tubes. And it's also generally harder to attach accessories like flashlights to a shotgun. So that brings us to the platform that I actually chose, the AR-15. It is, of course, a long gun in this configuration. The barrel length on this upper is 11.3 inches, which is a great size for 5.56, but also allows some room for adding the suppressor onto the end. That's pretty handy, guys. That is the size of the shotgun, actually a couple inches smaller, but it's suppressed and it has an optic on it, and it's just surprisingly handy for how much stuff is attached to it. And without too much effort, I have a platform with incredible ergonomics, with great stopping power with this intermediate cartridge. Just get this thing loaded up and go. I do keep it with a mag in the safe and the bolt locked open, so I pull it out, and I just slap that bolt release, and I am good to go at that point. Just put it on fire. Gotta make sure I don't lose this round. Ammo is expensive these days. That brings us to the magazines. Let's talk capacity here for a second, guys. I use Magpul 30 round windowed mags right there. You can see the rounds inside. All of my primary home defense mags are the windowed version, so I can very clearly in an emergency see how much ammo I have left. They're handy. I think 30 is generally going to be fine for any scenario, but just to be safe, I do keep extra mags on hand. I'll show you guys this little bag right here. This is a simple magazine storage and carrying bag from, I believe it's, Arms Unlimited. It can hold 4 AR mags and 4 pistol mags. I keep just a couple of my pistol mags in there too. I keep this in the nightstand, and if I really need it, now my wife could grab it, or I can just grab it. It's got a simple little strap here, not very comfortable, but you just throw it on your shoulder and go. You can reload an AR very, very quickly. You can have plenty of cheap magazines for backup. These things are like $9 a piece. Got some mag pulls there. I got some OK Gen 2s there with some Hornady hollow points, it looks like. Mags are cheap. You don't have to worry about your 7-round capacity on your shotgun and trying to reload that thing in the dark and under stress with sweaty fingers and all that good stuff. An AR is just so simple to operate. You can just go and deal with a threat without having to think about it. Capacity is king, in my opinion, for winning a gunfight. Shotguns are really weak in that particular area. Let's also talk felt recoil for a second. A shotgun, 12 gauge, obviously tons of recoil. Yeah, I can shoot one pretty well at the range. Could I shoot one as easily in my bedroom with all the noise and flash and recoil there in the middle of the night you're half asleep? I don't know. Pistols, I already covered that. Getting the grip right, getting the trigger pull right, it's a lot for me to think about. But an AR is so soft shooting, and with this optic right here, you just pick up your target and go. Again, you just don't have to think about it. It just works. With the piston system here, the long stroke from PWS, with a suppressor on the end, the felt recoil is almost nothing on this AR-15.
These have no recoil at all. Just zero recoil. You gotta control that breathing.
Let's talk for a second about overpenetration and overall shot penetration in a home defense scenario. Here in America, the houses are 2 sheets of sheetrock with insulation in between them. It's not gonna stop much. For a shotgun, running buckshot for defense like you really should, those balls are gonna go through a lot of walls, and that's not a Rainbow Six Siege joke. Here I've got some ball and shot, which is basically a round slug followed by buckshot. I can't imagine how many walls that would go through. You would think that pistol rounds, being a little bit lower powered, usually about 1/3 of the velocity of a rifle round, you'd think that pistol rounds, especially hollow points, might overpenetrate less walls. Well, I'll link you guys to some articles down in the description. People have tried this, and the answer is generally a bullet's gonna go through walls, and hollow point or not, that's just how things are gonna work. That's true of buckshot, that's true of pistol rounds, even the hollow points, and yes, that is true of AR rounds. However, with the right ammo, you can mitigate that overpenetration to a certain extent. These right here are some Hornady 55 grain, basically varmint rounds right here. These in testing have been shown to start to fragment and tumble and slow down the overpenetration after 3 or 4 walls. You're not going to want to miss your target, but an AR with the right ammo has the potential to overpenetrate less. At the end of the day, call your shots, know where you're shooting, know the layout of your house, practice protecting your house, and don't put shots where they don't belong. So I've kind of waxed poetic here about the AR platform and how well it works for me, but are there any downsides to the AR platform? Yes, of course there are, and one of the biggest ones is unsuppressed. These things are disgustingly loud. Let's get that can off again. See, I have the muzzle brake on here at the moment. A 11.5-inch barrel like this PWS with a muzzle brake on it is gonna be like firing a flashbang in front of your face each time you shoot it in the dark. This thing would be incredibly loud. I would say easily north of 168, 170 decibels. It's gonna be an unpleasant scenario to shoot this thing indoors. The plus side is ARs do suppress pretty well as far as taking the edge off. You put these suppressors on here and you're going to get things below the 140 decibel instant hearing damage threshold by a bit. I believe with this can it rates at about 136 decibels roughly, and it also has a rubberized wipe that goes in the end cap, which will let you take 10 or so shots with extra suppression before that wipe starts to erode. It just helps to trap extra gas inside of the suppressor until the wipe is destroyed by shooting, and that'll just lower your overall herd volume. So for a home defense can, I said, oh yeah, let's do one with a wipe, because if I only have to fire a couple rounds suppressed in a home defense scenario, you have a little bit of extra suppression. A suppressor is also going to cut down on not only the noise, but the flash and the recoil, again making this platform just easier to shoot, especially in the dark in a home defense scenario. Really, I guess the only downside left is that with the loaded magazine, with the optic, with the sling, with some of the other accessories we've looked at, this thing is a bit of a tank. It's around 11 pounds, and yeah, you can do lightweight builds, but I'm okay with a tank that I can trust my life to. Again, I'm not going to be walking around the woods with this thing. This is a home defense gun. You've got to have that trade-off, and weight is going to be one of those things with this kind of setup that you are going to deal with. Let's talk about a couple of the accessories. First and most importantly, in my opinion, is going to be your weapon light. If this is a home defense weapon, you have to be able to identify your target and know what you're going to shoot at before you shoot. I would rather hesitate and put myself into danger than put myself in that horrific scenario of injuring someone that I care about. So put a weapon light on your home defense gun, no matter what it is, your shotgun, your pistol, put a light on that thing. This is a Streamlight Tlr Rm2. It's a little bit lighter weight than their HLX 1000 series, but it's still 1000 lumens, and it has a tap on, tap off pad, or you can just hold to get temporary light and not give your position away. Also got a cloud defensive mount there for the pressure switch. And you know it has to be a real fancy gun if it's coming with rail scales. I had to see what all the hype was about. They're pretty cool, I guess. Got some for this gun. It's a home defense gun. I wanted to kind of go all in. That does help with grip right there with the rail scales. Get on target. I have some backup iron sights from Griffin Armament. They're nice and low profile, very lightweight, just in case something happens to my optic, it dies at a bad time. You know, those couple ounces of the backup sights are well worth it. Put them on there, have them co-witness right through your optic, and you're gonna have a aiming system that you can depend on just in case something goes terribly wrong with that optic. For our charging handle, this is a Radian Raptor SD, made for suppressors. It can vent some of that extra gas. I love the Raptors. They are on a number of my guns, but I'm actually a big fan of the Geissele's now. The Geissele Airborne, I think, has become my favorite charging handle, but I already had this one. But I do think the Geissele is both easier to manipulate and does actually a better job with that gas mitigation. But I still love the Raptors. I'm just probably not going to be buying any more anytime soon. And I've got a Geissele spring inside of the buffer tube there, as well as a Geissele buffer. I just really like their twisted springs and buffers. Pretty slick. The trigger is a roughly 3-pound single stage trigger, just one that I like a lot. 3.5 pounds is a pretty safe range for me. We probably fired maybe 500 rounds out at the range, but I've heard of people shooting 5, 6, 7, even 8,000 rounds without cleaning, just throwing some lube on there. I love this upper. PWS does a great job, and it's one that you can depend on whether you're cleaning it like you should or not. And there we have it. This is my own personal setup for home defense, what has worked well for me after a ton of trial and error over the years. I hope you guys found it informative and somewhat useful. As you guys can probably tell, the individual right to keep and bear arms is quite important to me. I think it's a natural extension of the natural right to self-defense, and it's part of what makes this country great here in America. I think the idea that power belongs in the hands of the people and should be exercised and practiced responsibly. So, if this is all new stuff for you guys, I encourage you, especially if you're here in the US, go out to your local shooting range, rent some firearms, get some hands-on experience and some training, and you might just find a firearm that would work well for your own self-defense for you and your family. After all, no one else is going to care more about it than you do. And it is your own personal responsibility to protect yourself and the people you care about. For now though guys, a big thank you to my Patreon backers who make the more expensive videos like this a little bit less painful to make, videos with lots of cost overhead and a ton of labor that goes into them. You guys are awesome. You're keeping these projects going. If you want to help support the channel and get projects like this completed, the link is right there in the description to the Patreon. There's some reward tiers you guys can check out, including some that allow you to pick some targets for backyard battlefield videos like this one. For now though guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time on the next episode of The Backyard Battlefield.